Okay, now I'm going to show you the overview of the purchasing process. Okay, in material management, the most important sequence of processes is actually purchasing right up to invoicing. The difference between purchasing and invoicing is that in purchasing, we raise a purchase requisition. I mean, the internal departments of a company will raise a purchase requisition. They are in need of this particular material. For example, in the production department, if they're short of some materials to be used for production of finished goods, they raise a purchase requisition to the purchasing department, and the purchasing department raise a purchase order, and they'll send the purchase order to the vendors. The vendors will send the goods back to the company, so we perform a goods receipt, and after that, once the goods have been received, we need to pay the vendor, right? So this is where we pay the vendor, logistics invoice verification, for the goods the vendor has supplied. Okay, I'm going to explain this process here, one by one. First, the internal departments will raise an internal departments will raise a purchase requisition to the purchasing department. Okay. Then the purchasing department will raise a purchase order and send it to the vendors who supply the particular material. Okay, before the internal departments raise the purchase requisition, obviously they will check in the inventory where they stock the materials to see if the material is available. Only if the material is not available will they raise a purchase requisition to the purchasing department. Okay? So that is done beforehand. Then the vendor will supply the goods ordered. Then, so once the goods are received, goods received posting will be done to update the inventory. Inventory figures. Okay. Then invoicing will be done. Let me increase this height, 800. Invoicing will be done. Will be done. Based on the goods received. Okay? So this is the whole process of purchasing. This is done by the vendors. Vendors will supply the goods. Okay, now, for this process, we have to use a purchase requisition, create a purchase requisition. For this process, we have to use create purchase order. Okay, purchase order. And we also have to release the purchase order because once we raise a purchase order, it has to be approved by the approving manager in order for the purchase order to be sent to the vendor. So that's what is done in the release purchase order. The approving manager, who has the rights to release the purchase order, will release the purchase order, will approve and release the purchase order so the purchase order can be sent to the vendors. Until or unless the purchase order is approved, it cannot be sent to the vendors. Then the vendors will supply the goods. This will happen external to the company, so no postings will happen yet. Once the goods are received in our warehouse, then we'll post a goods received posting here. Okay, once that is done, we can do the invoicing. Okay? Sorry. This is wrong. Let me just change this. The vendor will actually send the invoice. They will send the invoice. Then, once we've received the invoice, then we perform this step. Post the vendor invoice into our system. Okay, this is also external when the vendor sends the invoice. Once it has arrived at our company, we will do this step here, logistics invoice verification, to post the invoice into our system. To watch the full video, buy our SAP training videos at www.erptraining9.com.